The summer houses along historic Cottage Row in Fish Creek, Wisconsin often have names. There's Ridgeway, Bellevue, and Cranbrook Craig, for example. But when Robert Clark built this cottage in 1927, he felt that giving it a name would be too pretentious. So, because of that, I won't call this the Clark Lambeau House, but I will tell you about them and show you how I would decorate it if it were mine. Actually, this house was originally part of a family property called the Junipers. They were probably careful not to call it that in front of Robert. But anyway, you see the little tree cutouts on the shutters? It's a really good name for it because it's nestled among junipers. And it overlooks Green Bay. Fish Creek became a resort community in the late 1890s. It's in Door County, Wisconsin, the Cape Cod of the Midwest. It became the place to have a summer home, in part due to this guy, Robert's father, Chicago businessman George Clark. He was the first to settle there, and he bought over 9 acres along a 2-mile stretch of shoreline. And he built this house there in 1897. And the Wisconsin Historical Society says that this actually started out as the barn on the property. You can kind of see that. And then later, Robert built this house on the same land in 1927. And here it is today. It originally only had one room that was heated because it was a summer house after all. And Robert engineered a tank system to pipe water from the bay into the house. He had 2 tanks on a bluff above the house for well water and a 100-foot-long pipe that stretched out into the bay. And when they would open the house in the spring, they would ceremoniously put the pipe into the water and take it out again in the fall. Inside, the rooms are all paneled in cypress. Here's a longer shot of the family room and the angle going the other way. And when it was on the market in 2023, it was staged like this. But if it were mine, I would bring in some of the juniper green from outside and get some comfy recliners and old antiques and dogs all in there. This design is by Timothy Corrigan. And it's kind of a funny coincidence about the Moravian star on the coffee table there. The land originally was owned by Moravians, and I just did a video talking about them too. But anyway, they didn't want to sell the land to a non-Moravian, but somehow the Clarks convinced them and got the land after all. So on the other side of the front door is the dining room, and for the real estate listing, it's staged with not a lot of personality. So I would bring in this design. It's green and cottagey. It's by Anne Pearson, and it has a cute little kitty. Here's how they staged the porch. And I'm thinking there you could put anything you want, and all you would notice is that incredible view. Here's one of the bedrooms. There are 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and unfortunately they weren't pictured in the real estate listing. The house has 3,102 square feet. Anyway, here's an idea how one of the bedrooms could be decorated with some of that juniper green cottage in the woods feel. And this design is by Pfeffer to Road Architects. So finally we come to the kitchen. Now, how do you furnish a kitchen around a disconnected stovepipe? Well, the realtor suggested hanging a picture under it. But I would do something a little different. This design is by architect Eric J. Smith. Make it a little homier in there, perhaps. This would be a good time to tell you more about the Clark family, because it turns out that their business was manufacturing stoves, hence the lingering stovepipe that needed something under it. George M. Clark started the Jewel Gas Stove Company in 1886, roughly 10 years before he bought the land in Fish Creek. He manufactured gasoline and vapor stoves for kerosene. Here are a few of their more popular models. You know, I think I should change my channel name from If It Were Mine to 1920s House Built by a Stove Manufacturer, because there are a lot of them and I keep finding them. I have 23 posts on my site where I've talked about old stoves. So maybe I'll just call it If It Were My Stove. Anyway, here's one of them that I have a post on my website. This is designer Bill Sofield's house in Los Angeles. It's a green and green house, actually, for you architecture buffs. So in that vein, I decided I needed to do another Photoshop here to get a little more accurate stove in the picture. Okay, so sometime in the 1950s, the property was owned by Curly Lambeau, the founder of the Green Bay Packers. And the main house burned in the 1960s when he was living there. So I'm not sure how much of the house is still original and what was rebuilt. But anyway, when that happened, Lambeau renovated the carriage house and lived in it. And I don't think this is the right building. I think this is a separate guest cottage. But it looks like it's been there since the 1920s also. And the road covenants along the property say that you can build several homes on the parcel, so it could be a regular compound there. It also has this boathouse that has a fireplace and a rooftop deck. The seaward wall is notable because it causes the waves to break towards the water rather than toward the land. Apparently at the time it was quite noteworthy. An engineering feat, they say. But here's a better picture of it. So that's the Clark Lambeau / Juniper's house. Don't tell Robert. I guess I'll just call it the house along Cottage Road in Fish Creek, Wisconsin. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to help make my little channel into a little bit bigger channel. And for more content and more old stoves, visit my website at ifitweremine.com.